These two are pros.
Who?
Yeah.
I was.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at the floor.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Right down. There.
We all good at the back? So yeah, okay. You ready to kick off? Is that mic on? Is it on? You with the mic?
All good? No, come on. Hello, is it working? Cool.
All good? Yeah. Spot on.
Well, Chris, the difficult run into Christmas continues with a trip to Villa Park on Friday. What have you made of Aston Villa's season so far?
Pretty much what everybody else has made of it. What is it? 15 wins out of 15 at home. So always a tough place to go. Always love going there as well as a player and a manager. Had some good experiences there as well, but doesn't come much tougher. They're obviously on a fabulous run. An incredibly well coached team with outstanding individuals, and an opportunity obviously for them to go top of the division on Friday night. So. A lot of issues that we've got to solve on the night, but as we've talked about, it's no good not getting on the bus if you don't believe and you haven't got any confidence in your own ability, in your team's ability to go and get a result, and that's how we must approach the game.
And Unai Emery, it's been widely spoken about how meticulous he is as a manager. What else do you know about him, and what do you expect from one of his teams?
I think you're doing a great disservice to every manager, not just in the Premier League, but in the Championship, League One and League Two. They all have to be good at the jobs, and they're all very, very meticulous. He's obviously got an incredible group of players to work with, which is a bonus for him. So, but obviously, a world-class operator in terms of what he's achieved, what he's won in Europe, and the standing that he has in the game, and obviously he's moved that work into Aston Villa pretty quickly, and I think a majority of us are not surprised in terms of the effect that the manager's had on that team.
Sheffield United, of course, struggled with injuries this season. Yesterday I was reading that they've lost their third most days in the league due to injuries. How does that affect your planning for the January window? Yeah,
it does. It just affects it from straight away into the next game. So there's some issues that we need to resolve as well, longer term, medium to longer term, but shorter term as well, because we've got a few issues as well leading up to that game, which is not ideal because at the best you want your full strongest hit to go to Villa Park, because that's what you need. You need all your players, and we're not going to have all our players. It still is a young and experienced, naive group in terms of Premier League experience, in terms of age as well. But as I said, no excuses. We go there, and whatever group that we pick, we fully expect and demand a committed together performance, because if not, then you can get pulled apart at places like Villa Park. But I've got to say, over the three games, apart from a tactical point of view for 15 minutes against Chelsea, we were really together there. Disappointed that we undone our decent work after 45 minutes with some tactical issues that hopefully we've resolved for 15 minutes. But you get exposed against Liverpool at home, you get exposed against Brentford at home if you're not together. So we have to be together, and we have to produce one of those Sheffield United performances that allows us to be competitive. Cheers.
Couple of things, if I may, Chris, just on the injuries. First and foremost, obviously we did speak after Chelsea about bumps and bruises. Are these new injuries to contend with after that game?
I think there's a couple of reoccurring injuries that players have got that have sort of resurfaced. So that's disappointing, because, as I just said, we need everybody. and everybody available. So, you know, we just got to pick the right team and look at it. We can't risk as well, Andy. You know, we can't risk in terms of, you know, players coming back and re-injuring themselves. So we have to take a sensible approach to that as well. And but we'll look at it, and from a tactical point of view, see what's the best way of going about trying to get a result at Villa Park. And from a personnel point of view, then slot those players into that formation.
And as best you can sort of tell right now, and what the medics say, are these sort of injuries short term? Obviously, Christmas into the cup. You've got a lot of football to play between now and the winter break.
Well, yeah, there's some games, and you know we'll approach every game on its merit. That's what we talked about. You know, first of all, Villa at Villa Park on Friday night. It's got to be our 100% focus. The injuries are, we can do something about it, of course. You know, medium to longer term. But at the moment, I'm really relying on what the physios are telling me, what their diagnosis is, what their opinion is, in terms of who's available and who isn't available. Some good news this week: Reece Norrington-Davies played 45 minutes in the under-21s. Which was good for him and came through. We had a little bit of a setback with Ollie Arblaster last night playing for Port Vale, who I went to see.
Is that serious? Because it
looked it.
Yeah.
I've got to say, it looked it, and me and Jack Lester were scratching our head after about 55 minutes, because it was just an innocuous collision in the middle of the park where Ollie's gone for a tackle with two other players, one of his own players as well. And I think one of his own players has come through and caught Ollie on the knee. So stitches, so superficial, right, but still not ideal.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a scare, because I've got to say the reaction of all the players and the referee was one of a serious injury right at that particular moment. But touch wood, I've spoke to the boy this morning, and I'm sure he'll be okay.
Just clarify Cameron Archer's situation. I think most people know the detail.
You know more than me.
Okay, so let's get to the bottom of it then.
He's available.
He's available. So he's a Sheffield United footballer, but there is the buyback clause.
I'm not getting involved in anything like that, Andy. I've had all on, you know, in terms of, you know, committing my time and energy in terms of, you know, short term tactical and preparation stuff for matches. So the detail, I'll try and find out a little bit more about it than we all know. But he is available, which obviously is good news for us.
I know you were talking last week about having had the meeting with the hierarchy, and this is kind of a basic way for a very unbasic scenario. But are you as sort of ready as anybody could be to start working what you need to do in the January transfer window?
Well, we have to. The recruitment department is there and has options as well. So we have to, regardless of the situation. But you know, we've talked about it, and the board we're on the same page. There's certain areas that we'd like to improve on, like we all do, and there's certain players that we feel that are surplus, that are really not going to play a part in the second part of the season. So let's be decisive. Let's be front foot, and let's make them decisions. I'm still, as you know, knowing about the Flecks and the Norwoods and the Robinsons and the Baldocks and the McBurneys, but you know, there's others that I know a bit about in terms of watching them on tape, but not really getting to know deep down what their characters are like. So there's a lot of players that I don't really know or I'm getting to know now, and that'll only expand in time. But there's certain ones that, you know, feel when you're a football club manager, especially in this situation, close to January, you have to make quick decisions on. You have to go with what you feel, what you think, and what you see, and we'll do that.
Because it's interesting about the snap decision scenario with maybe players that are out of contract, or you're not going to use them, or both. Whether the time is now to move them on, or whether any might get another few months to say, there's a contract on the table, maybe.
All I'll say, there'll be opportunities out there in the next 3 or 4 weeks. January window doesn't shut until the end of January. Of course, we all like to do our business pretty early, but there'll be opportunities for players that, maybe they might think that they're out the picture a little bit, that all of a sudden... And I always said this, as there's no downside to anything, regardless if they see their future here or they see their future away. If you get an opportunity to train well, train well. If you get an opportunity to play well, play well. And there's no downside to that at all from those boys. And one of the things, that, as I've always said, the real good thing about it is the attitude of the group. They've been battered and bruised. It's been a difficult first part of the season. They've shown enough life for me in the last 3 games to feel there's something in the season for us. We have to keep that going, but we're still massively learning about the players, and hopefully they can keep on that upward trajectory that they're showing me and, more importantly, the supporters right now.
As you mentioned, very good at Chelsea apart from that sort of 15-minute spell. Villa obviously a quality team, banging form right now. How much does this perhaps provide the opportunity for the players to show the fans they've learnt from that 15 minutes?
We've got to keep improving, and we're learning on the job in the hardest division in the world. So this is the difficult part of it, and I think I'm sure there'll be some leeway towards myself and the staff because of the lack of time that we've got on the training ground, especially the close proximity of all the games, going from a Wednesday night to a Saturday into a Friday. Rest and recovery, you've got to put in so much of these, from a mentality point of view, from a physical point of view, from a tactical and technical point of view. You've got to try and cram as much in as possible, and don't overdo it so they're spent on the training ground, because where they're going to expand all their energy, Andy, is on the pitch. So, but I think there's a little bit of leeway, but they've got to take in a lot of information because it is a different way of playing. We've had a different formation, we've had a change in formation, so that's different to what they're used to, and a different approach in terms of the game plan that we're going about it now.
As you mentioned at the top, you've had some pretty extraordinary days against Villa here and at their place. Ghost goals, 4-1 wins, 3-3 draws, all of that. It's become quite the fixture over the years.
Yeah, I mean, United won there in the FA Cup as well, didn't they? As a League One side as well. So under Nigel.
Yeah.
So in that cup run. So I mean, we've both taken sort of different pathways, obviously. So. But always it's been one of those historic football clubs that's got so much to be admired about, and they've got world-class managers, some really top footballers, and the ground's always a brilliant place to go. Apart from obviously when it was empty in COVID and the ghost goal. So we've got some memories of that place. It's always seems something to happen, and hopefully something will happen on Friday night and go in the favour of the visiting team.
So, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Could you pass back to Sonny, please, and then we'll go to the...
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
I just want to ask about, there's been obviously talk about Luminendai being a little bit out of favour, or over in France. What are your thoughts on him as a player, and would you be interested in bringing him back to Sheffield United?
I'm not prepared to talk about anybody that's... I'm really focusing on the group that we've got. I think everybody knows Illy's history here, and me more than anybody, because he was a young player when he first came through. In my time, he was training with the first team all season. And obviously from myself, looking from a distance, the effect that he had on the team in his breakthrough season, and obviously his promotion season. So, fabulous player, outstanding player. But in terms of speculation, I really don't want to get involved in that.
Reece Norrington-Davis, you mentioned him earlier, played 45 minutes. How far away is he from being back in a first team setting?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, we'll try and get him some more minutes in the game, but the condition that he's doing on the training ground, he's hitting top speed. It's just the match practice which he's short of, and he might have to get that match practice in the first team. But you know, I think an awful lot of credit must go to the medical department and more importantly the boy, because it was a pretty serious injury and one where there was real concern for Reece's future on it. And you know, there's been a few of those boys here that, you know, people should never be critical, because players don't go out to be injured. It is the worst situation that any of the players can be involved in when they're out injured and not available. So, you know, these boys don't deliberately get injured. The likes of Norrington Davis, the likes of Brewster, and I really don't think people realise how tough it is. Of course, they're professional footballers, and you know, financially they get really well paid, but their love is playing football, and they're getting restricted to that through injury and not of their own doing. You know, if they were reckless in terms of what they did, if they weren't very professional in their approach, then sometimes these things happen. But these boys are really top professionals and deserve a slice of luck. So hopefully Reece will have that, and Rian will have that when he comes back, and a few of the other boys that have suffered some long-term injuries.
Defensively, obviously, before you walked in, looked quite frail, but obviously you've picked up the first clean sheet and a couple more defensive performances where you have looked assured at the back. You know, what have you made of them, and you know, how impressed have you been, if so?
Yeah, we have to get the balance right. I think it's an approach, you know, and maybe a more progressive approach and a more attacking approach in a way. I think we were 6 in terms before the game on Saturday over the 2 games in terms of XGs. So, you know, it's one of them, you know, if you sit back, I think you know it's coming. If you get up the pitch, then maybe you get a little bit more distance away from your goal. So that's a pretty simplistic way of putting it. But you know, we wanna go, and I think there's still a lot more to come with us with the ball. I think we need to be better, and will be better the more work that we do on the training ground. Get a little bit more control of games, but you know, it's getting that balance right. So we have to work on both aspects of the game. But certainly, you know, if we sit back and sit on the edge of the box or sort of, you know, on the crossbar, then we're just gonna get done. There's no matter. It's gonna come whatever time it happens. It's gonna happen. So the attitude and the approach is key for me, and I've been delighted with the attitude and approach of the players.
You said obviously a couple of times the first 45 against Chelsea was good, and then for 15 minutes switched off. What do you have to work on to try and gain that consistency in performance over the 90 minutes?
Yeah, well, just through practice, work on the training ground and experience and different situations again, you know, because it'll happen again. And now, and this is the thing that I'm learning about, you know, and can I trust the players? Because, you know, once you talk to them twice is a reminder, and third time, it's like, you know, if that doesn't go in then there's an issue. So I don't want it to be any issues. I want this group to learn. Difficult, as we said, learning on the job in the Premier League, but there's still a young group, as I said, no excuses. We're in the arena, we've got to compete, and it's a demanding arena, but they have to learn pretty quickly. So that 15 minutes, hopefully, you know, when a team has the ball, we don't go chasing about all after it like headless chickens and get picked off. So really, the only way I will be able to decide if we're learning or not is by seeing that in practice and in action.
And lastly, from me, how much of a better idea have you got of the squad since you walked in a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, by the day, learning every day. Eyes are wide open, ears are listening to everything. So I'm a sponge. I'm looking at people, looking at different situations and different scenarios. Either all interacting as well with each other and debriefing every day about the group and reflecting as well about the group. And as I said, you know, you have to sometimes make these quick decisions in January, and you don't always get them right. But we're going to have to make some decisions going out to hopefully bring in as well. But always learning about the players and hopefully learn a little bit more after Friday night.
Cheers,
Sonny. Thanks.
Then bar good stuff. Good at Danny.
Hi, Chris.
Danny.
I know Gids mentioned the infamous ghost goal in the year since. How many times have you woken up in cold sweats in the middle of the night thinking